All right. So my name is Inigo. Hi, how are you? I am going to give you a little intro on how to use the Drupal Ecological Information Management System faceted search. So I posted an outline, and it goes kind of like this. We are going to explain what it is, and we're not going to say on how to use it. That is really fun, but it's covered elsewhere. I have a couple of database articles in database.ltrnet.edu. What I am going to cover is something that is even more fun. That is how to configure, how to use it, what is behind the curtains, what is that that powers this this functionality of DEIMS. So the prerequisites are clear. You need to know what Drupal is, what a Drupal content management system is. You need to know a little bit of DEIMS, the Drupal Ecological Management Information Management System, and a few contrib modules would be great, such as the views Drupal contributed module, the context module, the what else? The search API. And as a bonus, it will be great if you know how to work with Apache Solr. Although I'm not going to cover that, it's an option. Anyway, so I'm going to switch now to a screen and kind of walk you through the interfaces and how that's all work. So let me see if I do this correctly and do it. And all right. No, that didn't work. One second. Entire screen, share, send to everybody. All right, here we are. So it's not very clear whether it's working or not. I'm gonna see a test. Hang on a second. And let's see if this is going on or not. All right, it looks like it is going on. And yeah, perfect, and do it. And, all right, so I need to see whether if I switch my screen to something like this. Let's go to the NCN, the McMurdo site. And it didn't work yet, but see whether I can screen share one more time. Well, let's just try this one. Yeah. All right. So you should be seeing pretty soon like a screen of the McMurdo Dry Valley site. I am watching the Hangout in another screen. I don't see it coming. So, all right. Not sure this is going to work, but all right. Well, there you go. So I'm gonna log into the site first of all, and all right. So I got a site for the McMurdo Dry Valleys LTR, and what I'm going to do is show you how this faceted search works. First of all, you should know by now that the faceted search refers to a search system that allows you to filter a huge catalog into just a smaller filter by different things. So here I have a data for the McMurdo, right? The data for the McMurdo are over 200 projects and about 400 to 500 spreadsheets. I could do a full search here and start filtering by areas of research, such as the streams, the soils, the meteorological data, the glaciers, or I can search by actual locations in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, or I can search by the people who own these data sets, And in parentheses, you see the people who the number of data sets associated with each person. Or I can filter by the papers, the scientific papers that have been published associated with this study, and so on. And this could help me narrow the Google-like type of search that I can use here in the top of the screen. Okay, so that's what this is all about. Now, how does it work? In the backend, we are using two things. We are using what is called the Search API and the context modules. The context is used to bring the filters into this view that you have here. But before, in order to index everything and to make all these facets work, we use the Search API. Now, to access the Search API, I want you to go to the top. And in the top, you have, I'm going to just magnify a little bit. In configuration, in the menu bar at the top, you have the search and metadata. And within that, we have the Search API. So I'm going to click on the Search API. And here in this is the first thing that will allow you to create new facets. So you have two things. We are using the database server. So we are not using Apache Solr, although we could add a server, an Apache Solr server. And we have a datasets index associated with this database server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it. I'm going to start by the status. So I click on edit, and then you see about 7 or so different tabs. I'm going to walk you through some of them, not all of them. So in the status, you see that all items have been indexed, and I have about 2,400 things that have been correctly indexed by the database. I can, of course, re-index or clear the index and do operations like that. At a glance, you can see a few descriptive items about the Search API for this particular server, in this particular Drupal instance in this server. And in the settings, you can see the name and what am I using here, and how many items they get indexed every time cron runs. Now here is the interesting thing that begins here. In the fourth tab, that is name fields, you can see several things. You can see a node ID, and you can see provision ID, and a title, and so on. So all these are either fields that are associated with a content type or some sort of entity in Drupal, right? And in our case, we are using the title. This is a big one. So we are indexed the title field for all the nodes and entities in this instance. And we are also indexing the status, the author, a log message for changes. We are indexing the field keywords, keywords that are used to tag several data sets. We are indexing the publications, the related publications to these data sets, the people who are associated with this data set, the section, so the areas of research, the LTR core areas, the 5 terms, disturbances, movement of inorganic matter or organic matter, and so on. We are also indexing related projects, and as you can see, there is an index for each field in this database. And mostly, I am indexing things that are relevant to the data sets. Okay, there are many things that are not indexed, but here is a big one: the field person creator. This is the person who owns the data set, right? And there is another big one that I'm indexing, which is the related sites, the locations where the site is being conducted. And I'm also indexing things such as the duration of the data set, which is right here, where it starts, where it ends, and the duration. I'm not indexing this, so let me just click it and to index it later. And anyway, so there is all these things that I can also, in addition, add to my index. And once you are satisfied with your indexes, you can go to the next step, which would be, well, first let's just save the changes. Would be the next thing is going to be the facets. I'm going to skip the workflow and I'm going to go to the facets tab. So here it is. We can create facets that are associated with the indexes that we just edited and changed. So not all the things that are being indexed might have a corresponding facet. So I'm going to create just facets for a few indexes. And you see that I already have checked the core areas, related projects. I'm not creating a facet for the title, but I am creating a facet for the owner of the data set and the related sites and all these things, the start date, the end date. I'm going to create another facet for the duration of the data set. And I have these project roles also. I could say just cache my blocks, and eventually you should. You definitely should. Just it will help with the performance. Anyway, I saved, and there is a typical green message saying that everything went right. But this is not the end of the story. So now we have the facets that translate into kind of little blocks. I'm going to use the a different module to act on this. I'm going to display those facets using the context module in Drupal. The context in Drupal comes with a module called context UI, and you need that to display your context. It basically, what context does is, as it describes here, it allows you to add certain actions or certain displays or certain portions to your site depending on the context, on what is happening. So depending on whether there is a URL or something like that. So I have several biblio blocks here in a context that act, right? And I also have the Power Search dataset context, which is in this case overridden. So I'm going to edit this one, and I'm going to explain you a little bit in detail how you work with the context module. And this is part of the DEIMS Power Search. Facets search. So as you can see, each context that you define has a name that is pretty Drupal standard. You might tag it to group it with other contexts, and you might put a small description. So far so good. These things are things that are expected. And here is where it might get a bit complex. Just like the views UI, the first time you see this UI, you are going to be a bit amused, to say the least. So there are two basic things. There is the conditions and the reactions. The conditions is think of the context that will trigger a reaction, right? So, and there are many conditions that you can do. You can use a menu, like when we are in this menu item, then we trigger this reaction. When we are visualizing a particular node, we trigger this reaction, or a path. So when you have a URL, certain URL, then we display a block, for example, right? So these are the conditions. Like in this case, we have views as a condition, right? And we have a view which is called the Power Search dataset. So when we are using this view, I am going to trigger a reaction, and the reactions are blocks. So I have in this region, which is sidebar second of my website, I am going to display all these blocks, which come because I am actuating on this condition, which is this view. When I'm using this view, I see these blocks. Now, how can I as you can see, I made say two things. First, you can reorder these blocks. You can kind of drag them back and down, up and down, depending on the order of you want to display the blocks in the regions that I selected. But in the first place, how did I get the blocks here, right? Well, here on the right, this is what is quirky about this particular interface. You start here on the third column. This third column has several expandable categories, and in the category that is of interest to us is the Facet API. You could add blocks or things from another thing, but what I have done is expand the facet API. And in the facet API, you're going to see that I have many of the facets that I've been that are still not active, right? So I have additional project roles, duration. So I'm going to activate the duration. That is the only one that I have not sent to the thing, to this area. So first, notice this. I first activate the facet that I want to appear. I check the checkbox, and then I click on the Add button. This is going to send that facet from this part on the bottom right, the facet API section, to the block. So now it's appear right here. As you can see, it has appeared at the very bottom. So I'm going to put it, instead of at the very bottom, I'm going to put it just on top of the facet, the start date and end date. All right. So none of this is going to be enacted or enforced until I click Save. So I click Save. So you see, as a summary, the workflow here was I edited the first thing I did is edit the facet in question. Then I added the facets that are available. I click on the checkbox on the right, and then I added into the region that I wanted to add. Okay, so these are kind of the 3 steps that I went into this interface, and that's pretty much it. Once you've done that, if you go to the screen and you go to the Power Data Search, now you should see on the right a new facet. Well, I didn't re-index things, so it might not have anything. So if there is not anything associated with this facet, then it won't be shown. You see it from the core areas. We go to the start date. So we don't really see that facet because I have a behavior that says if nothing applies, then don't show it. But what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and re-index all the facets, so all those things can be seen. So I'm going to, in order to re-index, instead of going through the interface that I showed you before, I'm going to use drush. So if I use drush and then I do great search, you'll see that there are several components. And the one that I'm interested on is this second one or the third one, the re-index. So I'm going to brush to that search API index. It might not work. So you see, it's going to take a while, but it's much faster than going through the GUI. You can use the GUI, the screen that I showed you at the very beginning. You can use that one to re-index or to index. And so as you might remember, is 2,400 items that we have. And here, what is happening is that is re-indexing. Of course, if you had the patience and you have cron set to run every 3 or 6 hours, it would take several days to, remember that each time cron runs, we had to configure to index 50 items. So it would do that as well. So I am re-indexing, so because I want the facet to be shown in here in the website. So to recap, I use the drush search -api -index to re-index my site, and I'm almost done. So items are about 2,000, and when done, I'm gonna refresh the screen here, and you should see a new facet, the facet that we made active, the duration, and it will appear. Okay, so we are almost done at 2,300 items, and it looks like it's success. The 2,400 items have been re-indexed. So I'm going to refresh this screen, and I'm going to see a new facet, the filter by date range duration. And as you can tell, there are some data sets that have lasted for 22 years, while some of the data sets are much shorter than that because they were short-term or ancillary in the McMurdo dry valleys. So I hope with this, I think I conclude, besides there is 9% of my battery in this Mac left. So I conclude the data set, power data set / facets of DEIMS configuration. I probably didn't cover some details, but I think one important detail that I forgot to cover is on the appearance. That is to say, I'm going to go to the administrative screen of DEIMS. I know by default is one important thing. By default in this screen, I mean in the /admin appearance /settings /DEIMS_theme, and by default I think we have these sidebar positions. If you don't see your facets on the right, just please go ahead and click on this one, the one that has the two, the side-by-side by these two regions, and then you will see them. So if you have kind of like some sort of issue visualizing those facets on the right, and they are kind of rendered at the very bottom of it, just pick these sidebar positions, and that will for sure fix it. Probably should say something about the modules. Like I said, I am using views, views UI, context UI, and the search API module. The rest is just the DEIMS stack and the Drupal stack. Those are the main. I guess we could see a little bit the structure of the view. I believe it's pretty interesting. So let me just take a peek at this view, right? Remember that these contexts are being displayed because of this view on the left side of the screen, right? So these blocks over here appear because of that. So it would be probably a good idea to take a quick look at the view. The view, what it says is an unformatted list of data sets, and which are rendered with some settings. But here it is, the important thing. The filter on that view is there are several filters. The full text search that you do is that little Google-like search that you put at the top. That is a filter. And here is the items that get paged, and how they are sorted by relevance on the search index. And also, I think that it's important to say that in the advanced settings of this view here on the right, you see a group that is called expose form, and so you basically toggle that from the no to the yes. So you know, you want kind of that block to appear a little higher before the view. And that's pretty much it. All you need to do. The rest works wonderfully, because since the filter is on the index and you are clicking on the facets that act on the index, it all works out magically. So with that, I think I am done. So I am going to see whether I recover my Google screen, and then this thing and this I'm going to end the Google Hangout, and any questions, you just email me or contact me. You know how to find me. I hope you have a good time. Send some comments my way if this really put you to sleep or whatever. Take care, man.